But Sean Loomer has been a coach. He's trained kids across the country. He's actually from San Diego, so he flew in from San Diego to be here. And he's also worked with professional athletes and teams. So he's worked with the San Antonio Spurs. He's worked with Steve Nash. I know you guys, you might be a little too young to know who in here knows who Steve Nash is? All the adults. Maybe one kid. Oh, you know who Steve Nash is.
He just told me.
Oh, he just told him. Okay. So Steve Nash is an NBA player. David Wells. Do any of you guys know who David Wells is? Oh, come on. David Wells is an MLB. He threw a perfect pitch, I believe.
Game.
A perfect game. So you can tell I don't even watch sports, right? He's worked with David Wells, who's a very famous baseball player. He's worked with the NHL, the NFL, just through some of his knowledge and wisdom. So he has an incredible story he's going to share with you. But him and his wife are here from San Diego, so I would like you guys all to rise to your feet. All right, you guys are listening this early. All right, they are listening very good. Okay, cool. Rise to your feet and give me a big, big warm welcome for Mr. Sean Loomer.
Silly guy. That's a cool intro. All right, what's going on? Very grateful to be here. I have way too many stories to tell, so I thought maybe I'll just pick out a couple and then get into recovery. That'll certainly be a topic that we'll kind of get into. But let me just kind of back up so you know a little bit more about who I am, where I come from. My wife and I, as you were hearing about what we've been doing the past 20 years or so. So yes, we live in San Diego, 6 kids, 7 grandkids. Pretty busy. We primarily now travel and teach. We just educate. We've been teaching healthy lifestyle for about 20 years. For most of those 20 years, we focused on the gut. So we've been teaching gut health for about 20 years because everything in the body starts with the gut. And it took a long time for people to catch on to that. And Dr. Oz said everything starts in the gut. And everyone started to believe what we were saying many, many years ago. So that's okay. My background with sports is all over the board. I was an athlete growing up. I was a little guy. I heard this gentleman's story yesterday about being smaller and wanting to play college basketball. And I had a very similar story. I was a little guy, but I wanted to play football. And so I learned really early on about my sophomore year. I went to something like this, and it was a collaboration of different people. And I learned about my mind. I learned about goal setting. I learned about visualizing. This was back around 1980. So this was a long time ago to be learning these things. But the bottom line was it changed my life, and everything I said I was going to do as a high school athlete, I had accomplished. And so all these goals I had, I got a Division I football scholarship, and that's pretty cool. I was 140 some pounds, so that was weird. When I got there, I was just a little smurf. I had goals. I wanted to intercept more passes than anyone had in California, and I got to do that. And one of my idols in the NFL was Marcus Allen. If you guys remember Marcus Allen, if you're my age, I got to break his record, so I was super excited about that. And I just learned early on about goal setting, and I think the biggest thing that I learned along the way was from going as an athlete, a student athlete, into coaching. I got to coach many years, state championships, head high school football coach, head high school basketball coach. I was not a teacher at the school. I've always been an entrepreneur. And I've applied all these principles from sports to my life in business and in personal relationships, etc. But I think the biggest thing we need to kind of talk about, there's so many amazing people here. You know, as I walk through the little table setup out there, there's all kinds of facets to this. Mindset is a big deal. We all know that. Work ethic, right? Goal setting, all these things. If you don't have your health, you don't really have much. And it's so key, it's so important. And going through all these stories from the very beginning, as we've been taking athletes, so I'm fortunate to have taken athletes and get them into scholarships, get them into college. And then those kids, a lot of those kids went on to play in the NBA or NFL or whatever it was. And now many of those guys are coaching at the collegiate level or at the professional level. That's all, always really cool to see. It also tells you how old you're getting, which is not as cool. So it's just an interesting thing to watch the growth and the evolution of sports. Sports are so different today than they were before. It's so specialized, right? And what comes with being a specialized athlete are more injuries. We're overtraining certain muscles, we're overtraining certain skills, and it's really hard on the athletes, certainly on the younger athletes, right? We've got to wait and get a little bit older before we really start fine-tuning all these things. So I've watched these trends of overworking young athletes. I've watched them burn out mentally. I've had many kids not take scholarships because they burnt themselves out mentally and physically. And primarily that biggest result or reason was it wasn't about them, it wasn't about their dream, it was more about the parents' dream. And that's a big issue, that's a big deal, so we have to be conscientious of that. Whose life is it? Whose life is it anyways? And so you see a lot of that going on, but when you overwork or you overtrain, you're more susceptible to these injuries, right? And you mentioned, Janelle mentioned in the intro about athletes that we've worked with. And Steve Nash, we got to work with guys like Steve. Steve partnered with us back in 2010 because all we wanted to do was educate. If you know Steve Nash, super clean eater, right? Really took care of his body. His biggest thing he would say is the number one thing when he wakes up in the morning is I'm a professional athlete. And the very biggest thing he would tout, besides eating clean, was sleep. That was Steve Nash's big secret to health, was sleep. So you guys are yawning right now, that's not cool. Okay, so sleep's a big deal, and as we are growing up as athletes, it's about prevention just like it is as we grow up as adults with our health. So we want to make sure, I know when I coach, it was always about whoever was going to have the most guys standing at the end of the season, at least when it came to football, that's who had the best chance of going to where they wanted to go to win that state championship, so on and so forth. So prevention is a big deal, and so our health starts with prevention, and that starts with things like sleep, right? When we are training hard, whether we're in high school, and the kids are going to school, they're doing homework, they're going to practice, maybe they're going to films, and they have a little bit of their social life, whatever it is, the little basic things are what start to get messed up, right? The sleep is one of the first things that go, and now with all the devices, they're up late, and they're playing on devices, doing their thing, and it's very easy to see what's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. So the best thing we want to make sure we do is prevent where we are, health-wise, and I want to go into that a little bit about food. And the reason why we got these NFL athletes, NBA, NHL, Major League Baseball, NCAA, X Games, Olympic, all that stuff, we've done all of that, is because we were teaching food all along. We were teaching things that they hadn't heard before. I know I hadn't heard these things before. When I met my wife 27 years ago, I was in my mid-30s, I was coaching at the time, I had real bad arthritis in my hands, and she taught me how I could change that without getting medicated. So we're very into nature, we're very much into allowing your body to do what it's capable of doing on its own. So no one in this room is drug deficient. It's kind of silly, but people in this room were nutrient deficient. It goes back to food. And what the elite athletes started learning years ago when we started working with them, celebrities, the wealthy, it's always like, it seems like the wealthy have knowledge or the information, right? They have the inside tips and secrets. Was the more fresh and living food we could eat, the better we were going to perform. What I mean by that is certainly the better and faster we would recover. So here's how it works. When we eat our food, even if it's really good food that our trainers are telling us, our nutritionists, if it's cooked, it's dead. It's dead. And the very first thing that goes on in the human body is digestion. So when you eat, the first thing your body's going to do is focus on digestion. And that takes a lot of energy, and that takes a lot of work. When you eat foods before you perform that are not heated, cooked, or processed, they are alive. There's no pressure on the body, and life gives life. So when you're asking an athlete or student athlete or any of us just in life to perform, to be alert, to be ready, you don't want to be trying to digest a big burger or burrito or whatever's going on in there. Obviously, athletes burn a lot of calories and those types of things. But I just want a simple concept to go through your minds about more fresh and living food. More fresh and living food. Let me break down when you are hurt, when someone is injured. This is a simple, I'm going to oversimplify this concept. Our body has these things called digestive enzymes when we eat. When our food is fresh and living, our fruits and plants and things like that, those enzymes are alive. They're in that food, okay? So let's say that athlete hurts his ankle. He or she hurts the ankle. You have in your body metabolic enzymes which are supposed to heal you, right? So you have digestive enzymes when you eat, and you have metabolic enzymes in your body which fight illnesses, viruses. They're your healing properties. They allow you to see me, hear me right now. Okay? So here's what goes on. Let's take Steve Nash. Steve Nash rolls his ankle. His body wants to heal that ankle. These metabolic enzymes are going to start healing that ankle. But here's the problem. Now Steve wakes up and he has breakfast. If he's eating a cooked breakfast, he's asking his digestive enzymes to break that down, which most of us don't have enough of, because as we age, we deplete even more. The body's really smart. These metabolic enzymes that are supposed to be healing his ankle stop healing his ankle. They come up to his stomach and start digesting his food. Now they're done digesting breakfast, and they go back to his ankle to start healing the ankle again. Then he has a protein bar a couple hours later. They stop healing his ankle. They come back up to his gut to help digest that protein bar. Then they go back down and start healing the ankle. Oh, it's lunchtime. They stop healing his ankle. They come back up to the gut to help digest lunch. Are you getting the concept? You understand what I'm saying? So they're not supposed to be digesting all this cooked and processed food. How could Steve or any athlete heal quicker with that injury? Take pressure off the body. Let the body do what it's supposed to do on its own. Does that make sense? Meaning, if he was eating fresh and living food, every time he's eating fresh and living food, there's no pressure on the body. His body will spend more time and focus through metabolic enzymes to heal that injury. So the reason why we were getting all these athletes, by the way, something that I'm very proud of is we never solicited any of these athletes. Never. These athletes found us because rumors start when people start getting back on the field, back on the court quicker. So it all starts with your gut. I know Tiffany's back, and then she'll be down there doing her thing, and she's going to speak later, and she talks about gut health. That's huge. That is huge. And when it comes to recovery, it's even bigger. So it's performance-based, it's recovery-based. It all goes back to our food, and these are the things that we missed. I'll be 55 next month. I didn't know these things. I grew up in that other time when I was a kid and as an athlete. The things that they taught us to eat were very different than what are taught today. So sometimes we have to unlearn what we've learned, and if you're old school, we gotta look at this thing. Everything we're talking about just goes back to nature. It's not about eating perfectly. It's not about all those things. But you've got to be able to let your body, you have to allow it to recover quicker. You've got to take pressure off that body when there's an injury. We would rather see you prevent these injuries anyways. So prevention is the first step. And that's going to start with, as you guys know, proper hydration, right? Enough water, enough sleep, all those things. But when it comes to healing time, you have to allow your body to heal on its own. Be very careful, by the way, of taking over-the-counter anti-inflammatories for healing. Okay? I don't like calling out companies, but I'm I'm just called some out right now. So some of the Advils, some of the ibuprofens, some of these Tylenols, these types of things, you guys familiar with that? So when little Johnny or Susie comes home and they're like, I'm sore, I'm aching, I'm hurting, that's not what they need. See, we've worked around athletes, and my wife has worked with even more. We've seen professional athletes that have never had a drink of alcohol ever, but their livers are those of an alcoholic because they've taken so much anti-inflammatories for their pain and their soreness, but they didn't know. No one knew this. These are the types of things we've been talking about for the last 20 years, just to enlighten people. Whoa, take a step back. Okay, remember, it goes back to, we're not drug deficient, we're nutrient deficient. Your body's super capable of a lot of things, especially healing itself when given the chance. So the anti-inflammatories, not so cool. Okay, watch that. That's a big deal, especially as they become teenagers. They're going to start looking for this stuff because they're going through, working out hard, they're training hard, depending on what their sport is. You guys have to be aware of that. There are other ways of accomplishing these things without doing that. There's CBD out there, out in the lobby, and my wife and I travel and speak. We teach plant medicine. We teach these types of companies how to make that stuff. We make products for doctors and companies like that. We want to educate. We want people to understand plant medicine. It's not about, when I say plant medicine, it's really anything in nature. Does that make sense? Because really, it's your food. Right? Back, if you've ever heard of Hippocrates, he had it right where he said, let food be thy medicine. It's all about food. Unfortunately, the food's different now because the soil's different. We don't get the same nutrients in our food because it's not available through the soil. So even the people who are trying to eat good, they struggle. So try to, when you're, especially as an athlete, you're asking your body to perform at such a high level, you've got to put good things into it. And so when I'm saying words like fresh and living food, make sure you're buying real fresh and living food. If you're going to eat an apple, make sure if you bite that apple in a couple of moments, that thing starts to turn brown. If it's not, it's one of those examples of what we like to call fake food. That's not an apple. There's so many chemicals in that thing, it looks really cool, but the nutrients aren't, it's not real. Plus you're putting all this other stuff. So you guys have some amazing farmers markets. You guys there's a lot of farms here, you can buy locally here. So really look into eating fresh and living food that's locally grown, just so you at least know, meet that farmer maybe, whatever, you know who's growing that food. Okay? And that may sound so trivial and silly, but it's probably the biggest thing we can do, is know our food, our fresh and living food. The challenge is because of the chemicals. We've been teaching chemicals for many, many years. Our body cannot handle the chemicals in our food. It can't handle the chemicals in all of our personal care, skin care, colognes, perfumes. All of these things are toxic to the body. The liver cannot handle it all. Your liver's your filter. We live in a different time now, so we can't keep throwing all these toxic, things for our body to deal with. Okay, I'm going to talk about something else really quick because this is going to sound a little silly, but I want to talk about poop for a second. Okay? No one talks about poop. I lost my mom at an early age. She passed of colon cancer. Okay? I'm the youngest of 8 kids, and she used to be in the bathroom a lot. I thought she was just hiding out from us. She needed a time out. But really, she couldn't go to the bathroom. She couldn't poop. What happens when you eat your food, and this is usually a lot easier on the body, this fresh and living food is, we should be pooping as much as we're eating. Just like that little baby sitting over there probably poops possibly more than they eat, it seems like sometimes. And I'm saying that because as kids and as teenagers, elementary school, middle school, high school, they tend to start holding it because there's not the right place for them to use the restroom, especially the women, the girls. And then they become adults, and we see way more adult women that have pooping issues. So like in my mom's case, 2 things have to happen when you eat. You need to get every nutrient that's available in that food when you eat it. That happens instantly when the food is real, not cooked, heated, or processed. Okay? In order to get all the nutrients out of that food, it's got to break completely down to the smallest usable molecule, and then your body needs to pass what it doesn't want at that time. If it doesn't pass what you ate, it rots and putrefies in the system and becomes toxic. And then it gets into your blood. Now your blood becomes thick and sticky. If your blood is thick and sticky, your brain is not clear. Your energy levels are down. So the point to all of this is, the more fresh and living food you're giving the body, the higher it's gonna run itself better, more efficiently on its own. That doesn't mean don't eat cooked food. I'm just telling you, thinking about what you're feeding your body, because that's a big deal. I'll give you another example for sports. We took a defensive lineman from the University of Michigan, 6'5". They wanted him bigger. Came out of high school. He comes to us, he said, I can't get bigger. They want me to get bigger. They had him on an obscene amount of calories. Unbelievable. Some number I don't even remember. It was the highest I'd ever heard. I went, dang, man, how are you getting all that food in your body? He goes, I was struggling. It was making him have more, he had other issues were developing from trying to eat all this food, and he wasn't even getting any bigger. What we taught him to do, it scared him. We said, listen, we're going to lower your calories. We won't mess with your trainer, your nutritionist up there in Michigan. Eat what they want you to eat. Well, we would tell you something differently, but eat what they're telling you to eat. Okay? But we're going to have you eat less of it. And then we're going to make sure that you have plant enzymes to digest all that food. And let's see what happens. He was very afraid to lower his calories. Mindset, right? Belief system. Well, in this case, less is more when your body's getting more. He put on 4.5 pounds the first week of lean muscle. His allergies went away. Interesting. All because he was digesting his food completely. You need more nutrient dense foods to start with, but your body has to take it, or it doesn't really matter. When you eat protein, if it doesn't break down to an amino acid, you're not. That was my case, by the way. That's why I had arthritis, because I was a little smurf athlete, ate a ton of protein. My body couldn't break down all my protein into an amino acid, and so it stayed as uric acid. So if you want to know what arthritis is, it's that. It's that. Where's my guy? Sitting here, we're talking about when he was with the Cleveland Browns, they used to look at his blood. The reason why they're looking at his blood is because they wanted to see what was going on inside. My wife has done that. She's taught hundreds of people how to do this. She's worked with hundreds and hundreds of doctors, teaching them these little basic nutrition steps. And that's where it all goes back to. What's going on in the blood? You guys understand? Your blood is our river of life. If you don't keep your blood flow clean, you can't perform. Do we have more brain issues now? Do we have more anxiety now? ADD, ADHD, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. We got all these things. It's a lot, right? Well, think about it. Of course we do. The brain's not getting fed anymore. We're not getting the nutrients from the food, so they can't be delivered to the brain. That's for starters, because it starts with the soil. We got to make sure we eat better. But those red blood cells that are going to feed the brain, man, there better be some nutrients in there to feed the brain. And that's not happening. Part of the reason is the nutrients, they're not in the food. The other reason is we're not digesting our food. And this is generational, you guys. This is why we're having the health issues. But this is the sickest generation our country's ever seen. It's generation to generation to generation. It started with food. So the big mystery is we don't know where we start life with these digestive enzymes to help us handle our food as we grow, as we age. And by the time you're 20, every decade, you're losing about 10% of your ability to digest an entire food. That's why when you see people in assisted living homes now, what are they living on? Shakes, Ensure. They can't digest the food anymore. Well, that's cool. But here's the challenge, here's the problem. Now our kids are being born with diabetes. Now our 6 and 7-year-olds have arthritis. That's not cool. And it all goes back to not being able to break the food down because so much cooked and processed food, generation to generation, has been passed down from the parents. So if you look all the way back up the tree, this is what has been going on. So we have to educate a little bit more, make sure people are eating more fresh and living food. Because that's such it's a big key to everything. And it's so simple. It's not about buying, all this stuff. It's about, no, go back to nature. We're just so far off the path of nature that we've messed it up. So now we need to just take a step out, go back to nature. I don't know what your belief is. Okay, we like to call them God's nutrients. Okay, we think Mother Nature has it correctly. We don't like synthetically, things that were created in a lab. Can't even begin to imagine telling you the scary stories I went through as a college athlete because I was so small in Southern California, and what they sent me to a doctor to do back then. They wanted me on roids. They wanted to juice me up. So there's a doctor back then. This is how much it's changed, you guys. We didn't know what we didn't know. He had 20-some hundred patients that he was firing steroids into. Everything from college to professional athletes. And it's like, this doesn't feel, I can't do this. And I bit for a while. I bit for about 2 or 3 weeks. And I'm like, I think it was God intervened. Stay away from this performance-enhancing nonsense. You don't need it. Do it through nature. God intervened in me because as I was getting ready to travel as a little freshman to go play University of Cincinnati, doctor came running onto the field because I had some pains. And they pulled me off the field. They're yelling, "Get him off the field! Get him off the field!" I'm like, geez, what'd I do? His spleen is going to explode. His spleen is so inflamed right now. And so I ended up redshirting that year. I didn't know what I didn't know. All these little things that no one taught us are affecting the body. I can tell you, we work now mostly with retired NFL, NBA, those types of athletes. Because they put their bodies through so much, and they're trying to feel good. And most of us here, I'm going to wrap this up, most of us here, especially as we age, I know in my mid-30s, I didn't feel 100% until I met my wife. Now in my mid-50s, I feel 100%. Most of the guys I grew up with playing ball, I don't even recognize them. They've let themselves go that far. It's not about having to be an athlete as we get older, but it's about getting up without pain. It could be going up the stairs without pain, playing with the grandkids, or doing whatever you want to do. So we have to recognize it's okay, just because we're getting older, we can still feel better. So hopefully I didn't throw too much at you. I just want you to have some concepts to understand about fresh and living food. I think that's the biggest thing, okay, that you need to start to understand. Digestion is a big, big deal, okay? That is super important. Getting nutrient-dense foods into the young ones, all of us, right? I can take any kid here and say, here, I'll give you $20. Here's a bag of chips, and throw it to them, or cookies. Smash that, I'll give you $20. Like, I got this. It's nothing. You'll throw it down. I can probably tell them, I'll give you $100. Here's a bag of apples. Smash that bag of apples. They can't do it. Can't do it. Because the signal to the brain is, I'm good. I already got enough nutrients. I can't keep eating. The signal to the brain when we eat this fast food, these chips and all this garbage is, keep going, man. I'm not good. Because you're not feeding your body. It's just empty calories. It's garbage. Not even getting into the chemical side of things. But we didn't know what we didn't know, and now we know. So we need to change what we're putting into our body, especially as athletes, student athletes, all of us. It starts with the parents, because it's not little Johnny, they don't know. They're going to do what you do. They're going to do what you feed them. So if you do it together, it's a lot easier. My wife and I will hang out for a little while. If we can help you in any way, guide you, give you some thoughts, ideas, whatever, we'll do that. So thanks so much for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Sean Bloomer. Wasn't that amazing? Did you guys take some value? Awesome. They are incredible resources, so definitely pick their brain. They are incredible, him and his wife, and they're here from San Diego, so they're not out here that much. So now we're going to have more breakout sessions, and then when we come back, we'll have Mr. Lauren Harris. So thank you guys.